All right, welcome everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Catherine Duclos, and on behalf of the Quebec Sleep Research Network and the Snooze team, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us today. This is session 2 of the Snooze summer webinars. So before we get started, I just wanted to briefly give an overview about Snooze, the team, and the funding that have supported this effort. So Snooze was designed really to bridge clinical sleep analysis and advanced research in sleep. So it was designed to be accessible to sleep researchers and clinicians that are non-programmers, but also flexible for developers who want to customize and extend tools and pipelines that already exist in Snooze. So globally, we see it as a tool designed for modern sleep science where we can have reproducible pipelines and scalable multimodal workflows. I want to highlight the leadership and the vision of Nadia Gosselin, who initiated and has led the broader vision behind this platform and has overseen its funding and development with the help of Jean-Marc Lina, myself, and Hélène Blais and Sonia Frenette, who are expert sleep technologists. I also want to highlight the leadership of Karine Lacourse, as the lead developer of this platform. She was initially working with David Lévesque, but more recently has been working with Agnès Bazregarzadeh and Mohamed Hassan as the core programming team. So of course, all of this wouldn't be possible without funding support. So namely the American Academy of Sleep Medicine Foundation, the Brain Canada Foundation, la Fondation de l'Hôpital du Sacré-Cœur de Montréal, le Centre de recherche du CIUS du Nord de l'île de Montréal, the Canada Research Chair on Sleep Disorders and Brain Health, held by Nadia Gosselin, and NSERC. So today for session 2, we'll be focusing on sleep spindles and slow waves, how to detect, interpret, and visualize them within Snooze. The session will be held in English, but feel free to ask your questions, whether in English or French. You can ask them throughout the session in the chat or hold your questions to the end, whatever you prefer. This is really meant to be a collaborative discussion at the end. We've left plenty of time for questions and suggestions. So if you do have ideas as to things you'd also like to see implemented in Snooze eventually, you're welcome to share those ideas with us. Just a reminder that if you'd like to join the next 3 sessions on June 2nd, June 9th, and June 16th, you do have to register for those specifically on the Quebec Sleep Research Network website so that you can receive the link to the webinars. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Karine Lacourse, who will be presenting today. Karine graduated with a master's degree in engineering with a focus on health technologies from the École de Technologie Supérieure in 2014. She's an algorithm designer with extensive expertise in PSG and signal processing. And over the past 10 years, she's developed and validated biometric algorithms at the Center for Advanced Research in Sleep Medicine at Sacré-Cœur using MATLAB and Python, including sleep spindle detectors. She's currently dedicated full-time to the development, the documentation, and the training of the Snooze platform. So without further delay, Karine, I will let you share your screen and pass it over to you.
So do you see it well? So perfect. Hi everyone, I'm happy to present this webinar on the sleep spindles and slow waves. I would also like to thank Nadia Gosselin, Catherine Duclos, and Florence Lambert-Baudet for organizing and making this webinar possible. Here's the table of contents. I will start by presenting the physiological characteristics and functional relevance of sleep spindles and slow waves, followed by a description of the detectors integrated into the Snooze toolbox with a short demo. After that, I will explain in details what to expect from the output reports, then show how to visualize slow wave events in Snooze. I will finish with future work and conclude with a question and answer session. So let me introduce the sleep spindle and slow wave sleep events. The ASM definition of the spindle is a train of distinct waves with a frequency of 11 to 16 Hz, most commonly 12 to 14 Hz, lasting more than 0.5 seconds and typically maximal over central EEG duration. So on the right, we can see a simplified diagram of the spindle signal showing its duration, the length, its amplitude, the height, and the waxing and waning characteristic shape. Although in practice, spindles do not have this ideal shape. So lower here, we can see 5 mini epochs of 5 seconds. The 3 first include a spindle aligned with the red line, while the 2 last do not. The spindle frequency generally refers to the internal frequency of the spindle. For example, counting the number of cycles over its duration. One of the most commonly used features is the spindle density, defined as the number of spindles per minute. Here is a summary of typical values for each property. So about 4 spindles per minute. The average duration can be expected to be 0.8 seconds. Average amplitude, the peak-to-peak amplitude, about 30 microvolts. And an oscillation frequency around 13 Hz. So why detecting spindles? First of all, they are a hallmark of N2 sleep stage. In the figure A here, we can see an hypnogram showing the different sleep stages from wakefulness to the deepest sleep stage M3, aligned with the power in the sigma band, so the frequency band of these spindles. We can see an increase of the sigma power during N2, so aligned with the blue arrows, and a sharp drop here of this activity during REM in blue. We can also observe a progressive increase of the sigma activity across the night, which reflects the sleep homeostasis. So sleep spindles, as well as slow waves, are regulated by both homeostatic and circadian processes. It's illustrated here on the figure. So the homeostatic regulation refers to the sleep pressure or the need for sleep, while circadian rhythm refers to the light-dark cycle. Sleep spindles are also known to help protecting sleep from arousals. I will continue with other important functional roles here for the sleep spindle. So they emerge from thalamic circuits that are involved in learning during wakefulness. So to cite a well-known example, Shebus et al. Back in 2004 showed that participants with greater spindle activity during sleep following a memory task had a better recall. So the point is that only the group of subjects that shows an increase of the spindle activity after the memory task compared to the test before the night also showed better performance. And it was not possible to see this effect with the subject without an increase of the spindle activity. Spindles are also known to correlate with cognitive abilities and change with age and sex. So the figure here, number C, shows a significant difference between the spindle density, the first graph, and also the average spindle amplitude, the last graph, between young and old, but also between female and male. So this picture is extracted from the MODA project. It's the data represented here is from 180 subjects from the mass dataset created in SAMS. So I will show many pictures from this project. So it includes many subjects, and including young, old, female, and male.
Karine?
Oui.
We have someone saying, would you kindly move the microphone closer? So I think
maybe I can maybe just increase the volume.
Thank you.
Is it better like this? Do you see a difference?
Yeah.
Sorry for that. Okay, so here are other examples to incite you to detect spindles. So sleep spindles are among the most irritable EEG signature. In the figure A here, we can see the spectral power, so the energy versus the frequency of two monozygotic twins, which are highly similar. The two lines are really superposed compared to unrelated subjects. The large inter-subject variability in spindle density highlights more fine intra-subject change driven by factors such as homeostasis, circadian rhythm, learning, and aging. So it's quite important to have variability in the spindle density. So I want you to look at the picture B, still extracted for the MODA project. So this data represents 180 subjects, and we can see the scoring of the spindle density from three groups of humans. I want you to focus on the first one. GS is for gold standard. So as you see, the spindle density of this group was varying from 0 to almost 11 spindle per minute, with an average of 4 spindle per minute. As a result of all of these, sleep spindles are considered potential biomarkers for detecting or anticipating sleep, neurodevelopmental, neurodegenerative, and psychiatric disorders. So the figure C here simply maps different disorder and condition across the range of spindle amplitude and spindle density. Now we'll talk about the slow waves. The ASM definition of slow waves is waves with a frequency of 0.5 to 2 Hz and a peak-to-peak amplitude greater than 75 microvolts. The detector, the slow wave detector integrated in Snooz, based from the Carrier paper, includes additional parameters, such as a negative amplitude at least minus 40 microvolts, which is represented here with the letter B. Note that the polarity here is inverted, so the signal is displayed upside down with the positive down. The negative duration has to be between 2 value and the positive duration less than 1 second. It's illustrated here. The frequency wave, it's simply the inverse of its duration, because there's only one cycle. So the frequency band characteristics of our detector is broader than the frequency band defined by the AASM. It reflects more the delta band from 0.5 to 4 Hz. There are no criterion of the slope between the point B and C. However, a study from SIAMS, Bouchard et al. in 2021 categorizes slow wave events based on their transition frequency. So this slow wave classifier is also available in Snooz, but won't be covered today. I just want to let you know that it's possible to classify the slow wave based on their transition frequency. So in the figure B here, you can see an example of set of slow wave events classified in red and blue according to their transition frequency. Now I would like to briefly present the functional relevance of detecting slow wave events. Slow wave are a hallmark of non-REM sleep, particularly N2 and N3. They are strongly regulated by sleep homeostasis, as we've seen with the picture for the spindle introductions. So it's increasing with sleep pressure and decreasing across the night, such as the opposite of the sleep spindle. Here's a figure from Keeble et al. Illustrating the impact of different conditions and disorder on slow waves. So aging, Alzheimer's disease, depression are also associated with reduced slow wave activity. This reduction is associated with cognitive impairment and memory deficits. Now it's time to present the detector integrated in the Snooz toolbox. First of all, you need to download the Snooz toolbox. So please visit the snooztoolbox.com and fill out the form in the download section. Then download the installer using the link you received by email. The link should direct you directly to the version beta 3.0.0. If you're currently going through these steps right now, please be patient. It may take a few minutes to receive the email. Before detecting sleep events, a few pre-processing steps may be required. Since we generally detect spindles and slow wave within specific sleep stage, an annotation file is required for your PhD recording. Snooz includes several converter and importer to make your annotation files compatible with the Snooz toolbox. With the open source version of Snooz, it supports two main formats, so the EDF and the Harmony stated format. In both cases, you need to have the annotations file. And for the SEAMS user, we also support the Nasus format. Also, we provide a tool to validate your converted annotation file to ensure you are ready to start analyzing your data in the toolbox. The final step, especially important before detecting slow wave, is the EEG artifact detection. All these tools are grouped in the pre-processing category of the Snooz Toolbox menu. These pre-processing steps won't be covered today, but all the necessary information is available in the documentation. Otherwise, you can always contact us. The three spindle detector integrated in Snooz are grouped in the processing menu category. So why three detectors? Martin was first integrated in Snooz due to its widespread use at SEAMS. A7 followed by Fuseaux were later added due to their progressively improved agreement with immense scoring. Here in the figure, still extracted for the MODA project, so it's again the data representing 180 subjects with Hold and Young. We can see the precision on the y-axis. Value close to 1 means that detection are true spindle according to the gold standard. Recall is shown on the x-axis. A value of 1 means that all spindles from the gold standard were successfully detected. So the best performance is therefore the top right corner. In fact, this region corresponds to the gold standard itself, created from all the scoring for the expert. All the experts are represented by dot. So the darker the dot, the more epochs have been scored by the expert. We can observe a trend where most experts range from those with higher recall here, so more sensitive but less precise, to those with higher precision, so really selective but misses a few or a lot of spindles. Martin is represented by the number 4 here, with showing an average performance of 0.6. A7 is represented by the number 7, showing a performance of around 0.7, and Fuseaux is the letter S, so is having a performance of 0.8. All the detectors are quite balanced between recall and precision because they has been optimized to maximize the effort score, which is the harmonic mean of both. But the important things here is that Fuseaux has a significantly significantly improved compared to human scoring. A7 has the same performance as an average expert, but Fuseaux is above that. So why keeping the 3 detector then? The neural network, Fuseaux algorithm, the detector cannot be easily fine-tuned in Snooz because Snooz is only processing the model already trained. So keeping the 2 traditional adjustable detectors remain important. In addition, we believe that being able to replicate previous studies is also important, and in SEAMS many people have been using Martin for many years. So here are a few more details on the different approaches. So spindle detected with Martin are simply events characterized by an absolute power in the sigma band exceeding a predefined threshold. Spindle detected by A7 are events with a sigma band that emerge from background activity. So they are characterized by a burst that is emerging from the background activity. Sumo is a neural network based on a slim UNet architecture trained on the MODA dataset that I already presented many times in this webinar. So the name Sumo comes from both the model architectures and the dataset used for training. Here are the parameters specific to each detector in the Snooz toolbox. So Martin has one main parameter, the threshold used to identify spindles, defined as a percentile threshold. This means that the threshold is adapted to the sigma power distribution of the analyzed epochs. So a subject with a high amount of sigma power will therefore have a higher value in microvolts, higher value threshold for the same percentile that a recording with a lower sigma power. So this strategy reduces variability in the spindle density compared to expert scoring or even the other detector, because around 5% of the recording is available to detect spindles. So it may explain why Martin was the only detector out of 8 that did not show spindle heritability based on a twin study published in 2020. So in more details, the heritability scores where a value closer to 1 suggests that the thread is mostly heritable, or close to 0.4 just for the absolute sigma power of the recording. It's up to 0.77 for relative sigma power, so representing the sigma activity emerging from the background. It was about the same for the spindle density estimated with the A7 detector, but was only 0.08 for Martin spindle density. A7 includes 4 parameters. The first one is the minimum amount of absolute sigma power required to identify as spindles. And the 3 others describe different ways of characterizing how the sigma bursts emerge from background activity, and they are all normalized by the recording. For Sumo, Sumo doesn't have user editable parameters because we just use the already trained model. So I strongly suggest using Sumo due to its improved agreement with the human expert scoring, unless you specifically need to adapt the detector to your research questions. The following 2 slides compare the 3 spindle detectors. So this figure shows spindle density in the central region during N2 sleep stage for 147 subjects from Siams. It's the hypersomnia cohort, and it includes controls. The first graph shows the spindle density from A7 detection versus Sumo detection. Their estimates are highly correlated with a R-score of 0.73. We also observe a shift towards higher spindle density with Sumo for subjects with a very high spindle density. In contrast, Martin shows a low correlation with the 2 other detectors, around 0.05. We can also observe that the spindle density variability is much lower with Martin. So it can vary from, in this case, it varies from 2 to 4 spindle per minute. For Sumo, it varies from 0 to 8, and for A7 from 0.5 to 6. So there's a significant difference. Here are the figures comparing the spindle density with the sigma power. So the first row presents absolute sigma power, and the second row relative sigma power. The first column shows Fuseaux, the second A7, the last Martin. So only Martin does not show any correlation with the sigma activity, even though its only parameters is based on the sigma activity. Surprisingly, Fuseaux spindle's detector is the most correlated with the sigma power, even though the algorithm is not biased towards specific frequency band. In contrast to traditional filtering approach, the neural network simply learned from the MODA dataset.
This is a short demo on how to detect spindles with Snooz. The Fuseaux spindle detector is included in the processing menu. When you open the tool, the first page shows a short description of what it does. On the left, you will see the different setup steps. You can navigate through them by clicking on a step or by using the previous and next button. You will need to go through all the steps before running the analysis. We start with the input files step. Here we load the PhD files. I'm using the CM's version of the toolbox, so Snooz can read 3 PhD formats. I will open 2 open source EDF files provided by NSRR. These files can also be downloaded directly from the Snooz interface from here. If you click on Download NSR example files, you'll be able to download them. The annotation files have been converted into the Snooz format. The EEG artifact has been run on those files, and the annotation has been saved in the annotation files. Snooz automatically detects the annotation file, so it must have the same name and be located in the same folder as the PhD file. So we have the EDF and the TSV in the same folder. Then we select the montage. If you click on all the files, you'll be able to select all the montage at the same time. And we select the channel. We can filter them out with the box. Next is the non-valid event step. Here you simply select the events you want to exclude from the spindle detection. Now we move on the detection setting steps. Here you define the main parameters. You can optionally edit the group and the name of the detected event. There is the minimum and maximum duration of the spindle cut. For the spindle detection, only non-REM sleep stages are available. You can optionally exclude REM periods based on a sleep cycle. The sleep cycle definition is set at the beginning of the tool. Snooz provides different sleep cycle criteria, and you can choose to keep or remove incomplete sleep cycles. By default, we keep them all. So detecting spindle within sleep cycle or not doesn't make a big difference unless you choose to keep only complete sleep cycle. The default value are generally fine. Finally, we have the output file step. To generate the cohort report with average spindle characteristics per channel and per recording, check this option. And select the file name to save the report. To generate subject reports listing the characteristics of each individual spindle, check this option. A folder named Spindle characteristics would be created alongside the cohort report to group all generated files. And now you are ready to run the analysis.
Okay, I'm sorry for that. I should have introduced that I was sharing the demo, but since it was started already, I just let it go. So hopefully you understood that after presenting all the detector, I wanted you to show how to navigate through all the through the Snooz toolbox. So I will let this demo available for future use. Now we move on the slow wave detector. So it is also located in the on the processing menu category of the Snooz toolbox. So the slow wave detectors integrated in Snooz has been used at Science for many years. It is known as the Carrier detector. So to my knowledge, there is no slow wave detector that clearly matches expert scoring. Therefore, and to preserve the ability to replicate previous study, it was our preferred choice. Similar to the spindle detector tool, you can optionally edit the event group and name of the detected event. You can select the sleep stages for which you want to run the analysis. You can also exclude the REM periods based on the sleep cycle. Finally, you can adjust the parameter that define the expected shape of this slow wave. Only the default value have been validated. I'm now going to present the Snooz output results for both spindles and slow waves. As I said during the demo, the detected events are stored in the annotation files. So many spindle characteristics are reported for future analysis, including duration, dominant frequency, average frequency, peak-to-peak amplitude, and RMS amplitude. Of course, some of these characteristics are highly correlated to each other, so you should choose the ones most suited to your research question. Two output reports are available. One is a list of all the individual spindle detected along with their characteristics. One file per recording is generated. The other is a cohort report level, which includes spindle density and average spindle characteristic per channel. These characteristics are reported per sleep stage, sleep cycle, per clock hour, and per hour spent in each sleep stage. This is just an overview of the reports. Those reports are quite long. Okay, a dictionary file is also generated to provide the exact definition of each column. So in the cohort report, there is one row per channel for the average characteristics for each channel. And in the subject cohort, there's one row per detected event. So you have the characteristic of each spindle with this onset, duration, and all the characteristics. The exact same idea applies to the slow wave reports. Only the characteristics differ, and I have already presented them today, so I will just move on to the next slide. Let me introduce how to visualize slow waves within Snooz. Many viewers allow you to visualize events on EEG signal, such as the Navigator Stellate for Harmony format, NeuroWorks EEG for Natus format, and the EDF browser for the EDF format. Here we can see example extracted from the EDF browser. The same signal is displayed twice. In the second display, the polarity is inverted to illustrate what sleep technicians are used to see. So, in pink, we can see detected slow wave. And we can also observe that in two cases, we can clearly note a spindle at the end of the slow waves. This view is useful for exploring individual events and the signal during and around each event. However, it doesn't provide an overview of all the detections. Snooz provides a tool to visualize many slow wave signal curves within a single figure. So here are two examples generated at the subject level. In the figure A, the image is generated for a specific channel, allowing you to evaluate the set of slow wave events and identify potential outliers or artifacts. If you have a few detections with a super high amplitude, it's going to be screwed and it's going to be easy to identify. You can look at afterwards, you can look at the list of all these characters, all the slow wave with all the characteristics, and you can find out the one with the high amplitude, and you can check the signal. Is it to verify if it's an artifact or not, and remove them or just mark them as artifact. The figure B, the image shows the average slow wave curve across different channels, which is useful for exploring topographic difference. So here the example is showing the average slow wave for C3 and F3, and we can see that the signal in F3 has a bigger amplitude, which is expected. Here are two additional examples generated at the cohort level. In figure A, the image shows the average slow wave curve across all subjects in each group, allowing you to explore differences between groups. So in this case, the amplitude of the subject group is lower than the control. And in figure B, the image shows the average slow wave curve for each subject within each group, which helps identify potential outliers. So many display options are available, such as the slow wave alignment reference. All the previous figures we presented in this webinar were using the zero crossing reference in the middle, but negative and positive peak alignment are also possible. The colors, the curve polarity, and the axis limit are all user editable. I will finish with a short discussion of the tools we plan to incorporate into Snooz. So we cannot talk about spindle and slow waves without mentioning their potential coupling. What is coupling? The figure 1 illustrates this phenomenon. With the slow wave curve in blue and the spindles in red, the triangle here indicates the phase of the slow wave at which the spindle activity reaches its maximum. So the meta-analysis by NG and Spencer, published in 2025, revealed that fast slow wave coupling predict memory retention, while spindle activity alone does not. So I really think that the next step would be to integrate measures of spindle slow wave coupling into Snooz. Another interesting type of coupling is the heart-brain coupling. After Sarah Mendick's visit to the SEAMS lab, I think heart-brain coupling is also a very promising direction to explore. Recent studies suggest that changes in heart rate may be coordinated with sleep associations such as slow waves and spindles, potentially contributing to memory consolidation and autonomic regulation. This could become an exciting future direction for Snooz. And finally, please do not hesitate to contact us to share your ideas for future integration into Snooz. Here are the references used for this webinar. Here are the Snooz references if you would like to have more information. So thank you for your attention. I will now be happy to take any question you may have.
Next week, the webinar will be on rhythmic and arrhythmic components of the PSG analysis with Jean-Marc Lina and Mohamed Hassan Azad. So we look forward to seeing you then. Have a nice day.